Hello. But since this is like just the tier with you guys, we don't have to wait so long before we actually get started. We're on this lovely book right here. And if you read the last chapters leading up to this, it was quite interesting because we had this illusion array set up, and everybody was just kind of like, hold on, what's going on? And then I'm going to show you guys. For those of you who don't have the book, that way you can see it. One second. Because when Feng Xiao rushed back and then discovered that like everybody was gone, and then he saw Qing Miao Yu over Cui Buchu, this was the image. So I guess right after I just said, Kylie, you all you have to do is listen. You don't have to look. Then I put up a picture. But this is the picture. Oh, there we go. Isn't that terrifying? And look at that facial expression on Feng Xiao. He looks so hurt. It was like for a moment, he was like, oh my God, no, my love. And then he was like, wait, this is definitely an illusion. So, yeah, in these chapters, basically, they're in this array of illusions or whatever. And Ning Shuo and Yuan Sansa, they are trapped inside as well, but they have no idea like how to get out of it. Neither does Feng Xiao, but Feng Xiao is like, Cui Buchu will get me out. And Yuan Sansa's like, dude, no, he won't. And he's like, clearly you don't know the development of our relationship. So there's that. Anyway, the other guy that was with them ended up bashing his own head in. That was kind of graphic, but okay. Because I think it described it as like he flung his head into the tree and then it was blood and guts, or I mean, blood and brains, or something like that. I was like, okay, yeah, let's just describe it, shall we? But I can't say anything. So, yeah, anyway, there was the one guy who decided to bash his head into the wall because he was being controlled by the goo worms. And of course, everybody else is in this illusion as well, and they all have to rely on Cui Buchu to get them out because he's got the brains. No bronze, but right now the brains are needed. And he realizes that the trees are the problem. So he's like, y'all, cut down these trees. And unfortunately, they have to use their hands because what are the swords going to do? They need axes for this kind of thing. So I felt bad for Pei Jingzhe because I know his hands were like hurting. They were probably on fire, like chopping down these trees. And yes, there were goo worms inside. And these goo worms, unfortunately, have the power to control people and make them go berserk because even the guard from the Zoya Bureau didn't recognize Cui Buchu and was about to kill him. But Qin Miao Yu was like, no, you don't. So that's very unfortunate. At first, when the guard came, I was like, yay, so he survived. He really didn't, though. So we are continuing with the reading. Of course, we have, I'm going back because I don't remember their names other than Jiangsun Bodhi, which I'm so glad he's back because I really liked his character. And the other lady, what's your name, other lady? I'm trying to find you. Song Liang Chun, another chief of the Tuoya Bureau, but just like not the highest one. So yeah, they're waiting for Cui Buchu to get back because there's a case of a murder. They can't solve it. He needs to come back. And then next thing you know, boom, he's back. So that brings us to chapter 166. That day at noon, Feng Xiao had entered the palace to meet the emperor. He spotted a few more strands of gray in the Sui emperor's hair than there had been when he left the capital. It had only been 3 years since the founding of the new dynasty, yet for the first time, Feng Xiao found Yang Jian despondent. The emperor sighed, confirming his impression. Yun Tian, it's only the two of us here. I often speak frankly to you, so I might as well tell you. I feel overwhelmed. I don't know why I found that funny. I'm so sorry. That's not funny, but I don't know that. Okay, anyway. Feng Xiao arched a brow. Your Majesty, you manage countless affairs each day. You rise early and sleep late. It's immensely taxing. I urge you to consider resting, getting more rest. If you do, your health will improve too. Yang Jian was silent a moment. A new song has been going around the capital. Have you heard it? I rushed here from Luoyang. As soon as I refreshed myself and changed my clothes, I entered the palace to pay my respects. I haven't had the chance to hear any songs. The willow flowers wilt. The drizzling rain falls. Good and evil will reap their own rewards. A few days ago, Li Mu died. Last night, Liu Feng also passed away. The empress said she dreamed of someone from the Yuan family, then caught a cold and has been bedridden ever since. The longer Yang Jian spoke, the more confounded he looked. What do you think? Does this world truly contain resentful spirits that cannot rest? Feng Xiao shook his head. What one thinks about during the day manifests in dreams at night. A cold is hardly a serious illness, and the Empress is a virtuous person blessed by heaven. She's sure to recover soon. As for Limu and Liu Fang, I did not witness their deaths and cannot draw conclusions. As for the song, I must speak frankly. Songs and prophecies have existed since antiquity and are often merely a tool to sway public sentiment. When a dynasty is nearing its end, it's not uncommon to see songs arise amid the competing ambitions of warlords. But your majesty has just established a new nation, and your governance is clear eyed and benevolent. The common folk see this too and are full of hope. Why waste time worrying over these rumor mongers? They should be captured and dealt with decisively. Yang Jian finally smiled. Such spirited words. It truly uplifts one's heart. I should have called you back to the capital sooner. I do enjoy listening to you talk. Your majesty needn't dwell on such trivial matters, Feng Xiao replied. Yang Jian sighed. When I first ascended the throne, I faced criticism from many old acquaintances. This is something you know well. I've been reflecting. Perhaps I was too heavy handed with the Yuan family. The emperor would never have confided in anyone else like this, but Feng Xiao had long enjoyed this level of familiarity with Yang Jian. The line between ruler and subject was not so stark in private. When they were alone, they resembled old friends. In truth, it wasn't only Yang Jian who thought he'd been overly harsh. Many others felt he'd gone too far in uprooting the entire Yuan family. Yang Jian's eldest daughter, Princess Leping, had nursed a grudge against her parents for years over this very thing. Perhaps there were some I could have spared, yet I executed them all. Yuan Chan, for example. The boy was only 9 when he abdicated. Princess Leping pled for his life, but I still killed him. It wouldn't have been impossible to spare the boy. Your Majesty, Feng Xiao replied, unperturbed. You mustn't get worked up over these matters. You have always seen things with clear eyes, and this has made you one of the greatest rulers of your generation. If the members of the Yuan family had been capable men, would they have fallen as they did? The Yuan family has produced no one of note since Emperor Wu of Zhou. In my opinion, the only exceptional Yuan since Yuan Yong is the current Princess Dai, who resides in the Khaganate. Yang Jian smiled wryly at his ruthless critique. You... When a dynasty's time is up, Feng Xiao continued, a new one will receive the mandate of heaven and replace it. When the Qin dynasty fell, the Han replaced them. This is how it's always been. The Yuan family refused to be replaced, and so they perished. Had the heavens and the people been with them, they would not have. Once a head rolls, it cannot be reattached. Your Majesty has drafted the new Huang Code, which incorporates books and texts from all over the country, compiling and amending them. Compared to these efforts, the remnants of the Yuan family are insignificant. Your Majesty should act against them without hesitation. Why unsettle yourself over these trivial matters? His tone was brazen, yet Yang Jian was amused rather than angry. The conversation had improved his mood significantly, and with his spirits lifted, he regained his usual clarity and decisiveness. The circumstances surrounding the deaths of Li Mu and Liu Fang are strange. I'll have the Ministry of Justice transfer the case files to you. Investigate discreetly. Avoid alarming people. After a pause, he continued. Oh, and ask Cui Bichu to work with you on the case. The two of you have worked well together in the past. To my surprise, I'll admit. I trust you will also do so on this occasion. The Zhejian and Zuoya bureaus are always at odds before. Were always at odds before. After collaborating so many times, I trust your views have changed. An edge of teasing sarcasm crept into the emperor's tone as he finished speaking. Before Feng Xiao could respond, a palace attendant entered to report that the Prince of Qin had come to pay his respects. The Prince of Qin, Yang Jun, was the third son of the Emperor and Empress. He enjoyed neither the special favor nor disfavor of his parents, and his status was neither extremely high nor particularly low. This young man was broad minded but lacked ambition. He acted docile and obedient before the emperor and empress while indulging himself in fine food and lavish entertainments in secret. Feng Xiao, too, loved to enjoy himself. The two had crossed paths a number of times to the point that they were comfortably familiar. The moment the Prince of Qin entered the hall, he threw Feng Xiao a wink. The emperor coughed lightly. Behave yourself. I didn't think he was misbehaving, but okay. It's just a wink. Only then did the Prince of Teen make the proper bows, grinning broadly the whole time. Your son came to see you, father. Have you been eating and drinking well these past few days? The emperor pinned him with a stare. Have you been to see your mother? I'll go see her shortly. The emperor sighed. Your mother has been ill lately. She's in poor spirits. Make sure you speak kindly to her when you visit. Don't anger her. The Prince of Jin cupped his hands obediently. Yes, father. When the prince lingered, the emperor prompted. Anything else? The Prince of Jin beamed. I heard my second brother brought down a deer in the city outskirts yesterday and presented it to you. Since I know you don't drink deer blood, may I have it? Drinking deer blood? That's nasty. Okay. The emperor looked as if he would scold him for his indulgence, but he wasn't in the mood to give a long lecture. Ask Fungan for it, he said with a wave, directing him to the attendant waiting outside. The Prince of Teen was overjoyed. He knelt to express his gratitude, then made ready to leave. Daxing Temple will hold a Buddha ceremony the day after tomorrow, the emperor reminded him. I will go then to pray for the empress. You must remember to attend as well. Many considered the emperor without a single fault, save for the fact that he feared his wife. But Yang Jian never forgot that Empress Dugu had supported him through his most difficult moments. When he hesitated, she had dragged him forward. They weren't merely husband and wife, but close confidants and allies. The emperor had his moments of selfishness, and the couple sometimes quarreled, but to him, a single one of Empress Dugu's words held more weight than 10 of anyone else's. Seeing her so ill was a heavy blow. The Prince of Teen promptly agreed. How could your son forget to pray for mother? I will put on my finest clothes and pray with utmost sincerity. He winked at Feng Xiao again and glanced toward the door, hinting that Feng Xiao should leave with him. Feng Xiao paid him no mind, and so the Prince of Teen had no choice but to leave alone. Let me see. He said ill. Right. I was like, deer's blood? I'm sorry, I'm not drinking any blood. I'm not a vampire, and I'm also not a vegetarian vampire, so that's just all around disgusting. Your Majesty, Feng Xiao said when he was gone, your subject wishes to borrow a painter. The emperor started at this unexpected request. Why a painter all of a sudden? Feng Xiao put on his most earnest expression. Whenever I look in the mirror, I feel my graceful charm must be captured by a master's brush. Lest future generations refuse to believe that such devastating beauty existed. I cannot. That cannot be the reason you want to paint her. You know, it's hard for me to see this book seriously with that peacock around, opening his mouth. Right. I'm like, okay, we got some serious stuff going on. The emperor is upset, and Feng Xiao's here to help him feel better. And then he goes and says this. The emperor eyed him. He had known Feng Xiao long enough to understand that this was his nature. When the mountains lost their peaks, when heaven and earth united, only then would he give up his vanity. The two of them gazed at each other for a moment, and the emperor conceded. There's an artist in the palace, a member of the Lin family named Shou Hung. His skills are incredible, a match for the most famous of painters. I'll lend him to you. When you're happy with your painting, return him. Feng Xiao smiled. Thank you, Your Majesty. The Prince of Teen had waited half an age outside the palace gates with his bowl of deer blood before he finally spotted Feng Xiao as he emerged. What took you so long? He complained. Feng Xiao glanced at the bowl. Boasting your virile young energy. Yang Juan chuckled. And you? Enjoy any amorous encounters on this last trip? He asked. Feng Xiao thought for a moment and nodded. "Mm, I did." Yang Juan's eyes lit up. Considering how high your standards are, she must be a stunning beauty, am I right? What beauty could compare to me? Of course. I almost forgot what this guy was like, thought Yang Juan. He tried a different approach. Even if her looks aren't a match for yours, there must be something about her that caught your eye. Some allure. When can I meet this person? That person. A characteristic smile, thin-lipped and cold, flashed through Feng Xiao's mind. The corner of his mouth curled upward despite himself. Their allure lies in cursing people out and scheming behind their backs. Yang Jun was bewildered. They have a heart of stone and a terrible temper. If they suffer even a slight loss, they'll pay it back tenfold. Dubious, Yang Jun looked him over. Are you sure you're talking about someone you like and not an enemy? My enemies are all dead. Feng Xiao glanced at him. This person isn't allowed to die. I want them to live a good life, a long life. Yang Jun nodded. I see now. You don't like the submissive type. You prefer those who challenge you, my friend. That's what we call masochism. I think so. I concur with that because remember in the previous volume when Feng Xiao won some match between them, and then he was like about to test Sui Bichu, and he was like, no, I think I'm gonna keep my win for a bit. Although I do want to ruffle his feathers because I want him to get back at me. It's like, so you like getting got. Okay. So he said, I can't. LMAO. That might have been the sweetest thing Feng Xiao has said about Sui Bichu. Right? Declining to waste more breath on the prince, Feng Xiao turned away. Yang Juan hurriedly stopped him. Okay. I won't joke anymore. I have good news. I'm hosting a banquet at my residence tonight for the Lantern Festival. The Crown Prince and my second brother will be in attendance. Come and join the fun. Feng Xiao raised a brow. Anything new and exciting? Yang Juan puffed up with pride. What do you think? I brought an entire troupe of performers from Kucha for this. There's even a dancing girl. I guarantee her act will blow your mind. You've never seen anything like it. Very well, Feng Xiao said indifferently. If I'm free in time tonight, I'll join you. He turned to leave again, and Yang Juan grabbed his sleeve. Bruh, stop stopping him. You must come. I promised them you'd be there. Well, you shouldn't have done that. You don't, okay, really quick. I hate it when people do that. Like, no one's ever done that to me. But when I read that in books and when I see that in stories, then a person is like, you have to come because I already told everyone you'll be there. It's like, well, whose fault is it that you told them that? That's your problem. You can't force me to come just because you told people. You should have opened your big fat mouth. There was a faint curve to Feng Xiao's lips, the ghost of a smile. The Prince of Qin has sold me out. Don't say that, said the prince with an apologetic smile. I was coming too, that's all. I've told His Majesty I have no intention of using Princess Leping to climb the social ladder, Feng Xiao replied, and I have even less intention of becoming a princess's consort. All right, I understand, said Yang Jun, but you're both unmarried, and you're such a good match. Surely meeting just for tonight can't hurt. If you have someone you like, bring her to the banquet. Perhaps Awu will give up once she sees her. The clatter of wheels on the stone behind them interrupted their conversation. Both men turned toward the sound. A carriage bearing the emblem of Princess Leping slowly rolled toward them. Dadia must be here with her daughter to visit mother, Yang Juan guessed. But when the carriage stopped before them, the curtains lifted to reveal only the young duchess. Why have you come to the palace alone? Yang Jian asked in surprise. Where's your mother? Duchess Yuan stepped down from the carriage and performed a graceful bow. Greetings, third uncle. Greetings, Deputy Chief Feng. Her voice was sweet and melodic. My mother herself is unwell today, so she sent me to the palace to check on grandmother. Chief Tsui was visiting as well. So, grandmother spoke to me a bit longer than usual. Hmm. Before Tsui had last left the capital, rumors of the Empress's attempts to make a match between him and Duchess Yuan had run rampant. Many believed that if it were not for the Duchess's sudden illness, the two might have been betrothed by now. Then, did you speak to Chief Sui a bit longer than usual, too? Yang Juan teased. Duchess Yuan flushed, and shyly dipped her head. Does she like him? I would have assumed that maybe she wouldn't. Okay. She could have flushed for a different reason, I suppose. Did Princess Leping not object to this marriage? Feng Xiao cut in. Yet in the span of a single night, Duchess Yuan seems to have grown fond of Cui Buchu. Yang Juan smiled. You've been away from the capital, so perhaps you don't know. Yin Yang here has been asking us quite a lot of questions about Tuibichu and the Zuoya Bureau. After learning of your efforts to reclaim the Jade of Heaven Lake in Liugong City, her attitude toward him changed completely. You know how it is. Beauties always love a hero. Tuibichu is frail, but with proper treatment, he may very well enjoy a happy marriage and a head of snowy white hair. So that's how it is, said Feng Xiao. Before anyone could react, he reached out and brushed Duchess Yuan's cheek. He'd moved quickly, but not as fast as he could. Duchess Yuan started and took a step back, her sweet voice tinged with indignation. What are you doing, Deputy Shifeng? Even if Duchess Yuan had been an ordinary girl and not the Emperor's own granddaughter, Feng Xiao's behavior would have been exceedingly forward. But Feng Xiao remained unruffled. The Duchess has a lovely complexion. My hand moved quite on its own. My sincerest apologies. Okay. If this was flirting, he was the most brazen flirt to ever exist. In broad daylight, in the imperial palace, he'd immodestly manhandled the emperor's granddaughter. But as Yang Juan looked from Feng Xiao to Duchess Yuan, he suddenly thought that maybe this was a turn of good luck for his niece. Duchess Yuan bit her lip. Seeing that Yang Juan made no attempt to scold Feng Xiao, she swallowed her anger and reboarded her carriage without another word. Only then did Yang Juan return to his senses. He turned to Feng Xiao. That was far too bold of you. I'm her uncle, you know. Do you think so little of me? Feng Xiao smiled. Of course not. To be honest, just now, when the Duchess was flustered, she reminded me so much of the person I like that I couldn't stop myself. I'll apologize again when I see her later. Yang Juan was successfully distracted. Curious, he fired off several more questions about Feng Xiao's beloved. Feng Xiao answered some of his questions while ignoring others. He shot several contemplative gazes at the departing carriage. That Sui bastard is incredibly sharp. Knowing him, he already picked up on it. Let me see, I saw a comment. I imagine a jealous Feng Xiao standing on needles in the background despite his words. Jasmine said, I agree. I am too fond of him. Right, aren't we all fond of Cui Buqi? At that very moment, that Cui bastard was still in the palace. Empress Dugu made up one half of the two saints who ruled the nation. And in light of that title, she was one of the few empresses permitted to receive subjects within the woman's palace. Due to her position and the contribution she made, neither the emperor nor any officials objected. Suibuchu was one of her most frequent visitors. Yet now, the once vibrant empress lay sick in her bed, racked by coughs. It was difficult to say whose complexion was more alarming, hers or Suibuchu's. Oh, she must be really sick. Her round face had grown thin, her cheeks were sunken, and dark circles ringed her eyes. The empress sighed softly. She was a strong-willed person who rarely allowed herself such indulgences, but illness had taken its toll. Before, I only suggested betrothing Yin Yang to you as part of a plan you proposed, but my illness has taken a turn I did not foresee. As both your ruler and your friend, I genuinely wish to see this marriage come to pass, so you can settle down and start a family. Tell me, are you willing? Absolutely not! Empress Dugu, who cares that you got sick? You're not gonna die. Like, slow your roll, calm down. It's just the cold. Chapter 167. Any outsider eavesdropping on this conversation would have been astonished at the Empress's words. Miss Empress Matchmaker. A suitable husband for the princess might be chosen with the consent of the emperor and empress, perhaps with the agreement of the princess herself. Yet the empress was asking for Cuibuchu's willingness, and it seemed if he did not approve, she would set the betrothal aside. Cuibuchu did not reply immediately. Does the empress still remember? He asked after a pause. In early spring of the first year of the Kwai Huang era, you pointed to flowering trees at the Da Xing Shan temple and told me something. The empress was puzzled, but she considered the question in earnest. Of course I remember. That tree had been withered for a decade. Yet, in the first year of Kwai Huang era, it sprang back to life and blossomed with an abundance of flowers. I pointed to the tree and said it perfectly matched the decline of Zhou and the rise of Sui, a sign our great Sui had received the blessing of heaven and would prosper. The empress was an intelligent person. As soon as the words were out, she realized why he'd asked. You suspect I was a fake, so you asked this to test me? Cui Buqiu nodded. Only I heard those words. So you are who you seem. The empress laughed despite herself. Then you don't wish to marry Yin Yang? I would never force you. It's only that I saw how reluctant Yin Yang was before. Yet now she actively seeks you out. The girl feels something for you. And you, after all these years alone, braving the storms of life, you deserve someone who truly understands and cares for you. I've watched Yin Yang grow up. She has a gentle personality. She isn't spoiled and would never bully others. Well, little do you know, ma'am, Sui Buqiu likes to be bullied. Anyway, let me see. And he likes to bully himself. Suibuchu appeared deep in thought. Has Duchess Yuan visited the palace often since your majesty fell ill? Not often, but not infrequently, the empress replied. Around the same amount as before. She usually comes with her mother and rarely speaks. By now, she'd noticed Suibuchu's odd stillness. What is it? Do you suspect her of something? He shook his head. I can't draw any conclusions yet. After you left the capital, I did some probing of my own, the empress admitted. Aside from a few minor incidents in her childhood, she easily answered almost all the questions. Besides, if something was amiss, her mother would surely have sensed it. The emperor even sent a few spies to investigate. They merely confirmed that she spent the last 2 years in the capital, shuttling between the princess's residence and her family estate. She rarely ventures out, let alone to other provinces. In comparison, the daughters of the noble clans in the capital with more vivacious personalities wonder much more. Empress Dugu's health truly had declined. Just a few sentences were enough to fatigue her. A senior maid hurried forward to help her lie down again. How long have you been ill? Asked Suibuchu. And how did you contract this illness? What do the imperial physicians say? Such questions did not require the empress's direct answer, so the maid, Maolan, explained on her behalf. Not long ago, the eldest princess held a banquet at her residence for her birthday. Her Majesty personally attended. At the banquet, Duchess Yuan played the qin herself, and Her Majesty was in high spirits. Unfortunately, upon her return, she caught a chill. The imperial physician warned that the cold weather this time of year would hinder her recovery, and impressed upon her the need for proper rest. Despite various medicines and tonics, Her Majesty's condition hasn't shown much improvement. That Her Majesty is plagued by worries about the previous dynasty hasn't helped. I am destined to be busy. The Empress's tone was self depreciating. See how I can never relax. The moment I do, I fall ill. But speaking of Yin Yang playing the qin, that reminds me. She used to dislike such things calligraphy, chess, music, poetry. She would cry and fuss before every lesson. Later, His Majesty and I preoccupied with our own affairs and didn't see the girl for a few years. Yet, now look at her. She's grown into a graceful and gentle young lady. She'd been hoping to move Toibuchu's stony heart with these intimate details about Duchess Yuan, and it seemed she'd succeeded. He asked with interest. Has her temperament changed so much from when she was younger? There are, of course, some differences, but quite a lot happened when she was young. It's not surprising she'd be affected. Yeah, but to hear that she's nice and docile and would never bully him and everything, it's like, She's not the one. He needs someone with some fire under their feet, a fire in their belly, not the nice, sweet kind. I'm sorry, Duchess, but it's just not going to work out. Also, her thinking that she succeeded in piquing Twibitu's interest and softening his heart, I don't think that's the case. I think he's probably just suspicious of her, knowing that she's changed in some ways. But I guess we'll keep reading. The Duchess spoke around the subject, but Sui Buchu understood. Under the previous dynasty, Yuan Ying had been a true royal princess, lavishly pampered and exceeded by few in status. With the change of regime, she'd been demoted to the empty title of country duchess overnight, and the noble daughters of the capital who had once fawned over her began to distance themselves. Even when she'd acted spoiled or willful, the emperor and empress had forgiven her, and over time, she'd gradually become more gentle and made a conscious effort not to overstep her bounds. Though the emperor and empress felt no particular love for Yuan Ying, neither could they shake the guilt they felt toward her. Yet recently, her personality had become brighter and livelier. The empress attributed it to the first bloom of love and was well pleased with this development. Suebichu ruminated for a moment. Hmm. I have no interest in climbing the ranks of the court by marrying Duchess Yuan. Why are those the exact words that Feng Xiao said? Wait, I almost want to go back to the page where it said that. His exact words. I have no interest in climbing the ranks of the court by marrying Duchess Yuan. They're of the same mind. Sorry, but given these turbulent times, we must exercise caution. I would request that your majesty refrain from selecting a suitor for the duchess or revealing my thoughts to her. Allow everyone to think nothing's changed since I returned to the capital, and that your majesty still intends to arrange our marriage. He was still fixated on Duchess Yuan. Once again, the conversation had come back to his suspicions. The empress found this odd, but she understood Suebichu was meticulous in his thinking and precise in his speech. He never missed his mark. And currently, he suspected Yuan Ying. She didn't know what about the girl had drawn his attention, but following his train of thought, she sifted through her memories once more. There is something you might not know. All those years ago, Danyang gave birth to a pair of twins. Danyang, of course, referred to Princess Leping, the eldest daughter of the family. Suebichu was quick to catch on. Both children were girls? Correct, said the empress. But one of the babes was born sickly. She died shortly after birth. If not, Danyang would now have an adorable pair of daughters. The little duchess who died. Did her name happen to contain the character Juan for joy? That's exactly what I was thinking. No, the child died very early. There wasn't even time to enter her into genealogy. She never received the name. And did you witness this child's death? The empress sighed. At the time, Emperor Wu was deeply suspicious of his majesty. Danyang was the crown prince's consort. To avoid drawing unwelcome attention to her, I rarely entered the palace. Later, after Yuan ascended the throne, his behavior grew erratic and cruel. At one point, he attempted to have Danyang deposed. We all felt we were living under a sword about to fall, disaster lurking at every turn. I had few chances to meet with her, let alone see the children. Much of what I know about Ying comes directly from Danyang herself. She paused. You suspect the child lives? That seems unlikely. Concealing a child's existence would be difficult in an ordinary family, let alone a royal one. Besides, Yuan was the crown prince then. Any child of his would have been a celebrated blessing. What point would there be in hiding her? First off, it is not impossible to hide a child, even if it is of the royal family. Okay, here we go. So he's suspecting Yuan Ying, as I said. What if the child was on the brink of death and a flicker of life was detected just before her burial? What if those overseeing her intermittent chose to conceal her existence for their own interests? If they seized the chance to smuggle the babe out of the palace, wouldn't everyone assume she had died? The empress was taken aback. Mao Lan had served the empress for years and was her confidant as well as maid. She couldn't resist interjecting. Chief Cui, forgive my boldness. If the child truly survived, Why wouldn't she return to her family to enjoy the wealth and status of a duchess, rather than hiding her identity and masquerading as her own sister? Suibuchu's expression remained unchanged. That's why this is all conjecture. I'll be frank. I've harbored suspicions about the princess's residence since the Thousand Lantern Banquet, but I lack evidence. The culprits are exceptionally patient. They have yet to show themselves, which makes it impossible to investigate. But with these recent upheavals in the capital, perhaps everything will soon be resolved. The Empress sighed again. This usually astute and decisive woman had never much indulged in a mother's sentimental sighs. Danyang has a gentle exterior, but a strong one. She keeps many things to herself. Though she refuses to speak of them, I know she nurses her own grievances. First, a consort of the crown prince, then an empress. To outsiders, her status was one of honor and glory. But Yang Li Hua had endured untold suffering thanks to her husband's fear of her family. Though she was the empress by all rights of legality and propriety, Yuan had shown her no respect. He'd established four other empresses alongside her, an unprecedented farce. Yang Li Hua had never voiced her feelings, but one could imagine the crushing humiliation she must have felt. She had endured it all until her husband passed, when she finally rose to become the Empress Dowager with the backing of the Yang family. No longer did she suffer the demands and insults of others, yet these happier times lasted a scant 2 years before her father usurped the throne. Wasn't being a princess a good thing? Certainly it was, but could it compare to being the Empress Dowager? Whatever you discover, as long as it falls short of treason, please spare her, the Empress said with another sigh. It's interesting that she said, please spare her. Like, it almost feels like she's asking him rather than just saying, spare her because I said so, you know? Anyway, let's keep going. I guess it's probably because he's so quick to like act first, ask questions, and explain later. So she's like, please don't kill her, okay? Like, please. Okay. There can be no exceptions under the law. It is your subordinate's duty to uphold that law, and princes and commoners alike must abide by it. To which you flatly replied, I think that very much just confirms what I just said. Bro was certainly just off with her head, given the most recent incident. Okay, so anyway, Tibuchu is all for killing her if necessary. Even the Empress's requests received no special consideration from him. Aren't you her subordinate, Suebuchu? Bro's like, I am the authority. The Empress smiled bitterly. She knew this facet of Suebuchu's personality better than most. If she'd found it intolerable, she would have never employed him. But since she had to put faith in him, even in this. After talking so long, she was finally showing signs of fatigue. Her eyelids were drooping with weariness. Ever perceptive, Suebuchu rose to take his leave, and the Empress directed her maid to escort him out. Also, one other thing I wanted to say is that the Empress got sick after she went to that banquet. So I automatically am suspicious of the princess as well. Not to mention that apparently that prince Yang Juan said that she had been visiting the empress more frequently. So considering that there are no signs of improvement in her health, I'm like, is it because the princess keeps visiting and there's something that she's giving her or something on her that she has that is keeping the empress from healing? Just a thought. Malan had interacted with Suebuchu on numerous occasions and had long since grown used to his taciturn nature when it came to things not related to his work. She silently walked Suebuchu all the way to the gates before he suddenly asked, Malan Jeje, do you have any divine ointment left? Chief Tsui, who never engaged in small talk, had for once in his life initiated a conversation. Malan was momentarily stunned, then nodded. I have a few jars. Why do you ask? A gift, Suebuchu replied. Maolan was as eager as any to befriend an official who had the Empress's absolute trust. Please wait a moment, she said. I'll fetch it for you now. As she hurried away, Mao Lan's mind was racing. Why had Suibichu refused the Empress's proposal for such a good marriage? Obviously, he already had someone in mind. Why else would a man like him be interested in cosmetics? His beloved must be more beautiful and exquisite than even the Duchess. But Duchess Yuan had so recently taken a liking to him. If she were to hear of this, it would surely depress her. Suibichu left the palace carrying the divine ointment, yet the first person he saw wasn't Feng Xiao, nor was it Prince of Qin, Yang Juan, who had come to pay respects to his mother. After hearing that Suibichu was already inside, he'd waited a long time, but eventually left when he realized he wouldn't be able to see her anytime soon. He instead ran straight into Qin Miaoyu, who was waiting beside the Zuoye Bureau's carriage, smiling brightly. You here to collect? She's like, that gift you promised me? Why are you here? He instead ran straight into Qin Miaoyu, who was waiting beside the Zuoya Bureau's carriage, smiling brightly. Her good mood was hardly surprising. She was supposed to be a spy hidden in the dark, but after their adventures in Guangtian County, Feng Xiao had permitted her to return to the capital, where she could walk in the light again. Working for the Zhejian Bureau here was completely different from lurking in their secret outposts. The latter was hard and thankless work, while the former meant her superiors would see everything she did, which, if she performed her duties well, also meant a faster climb through the ranks. Thus, though she'd only been assigned as a messenger, Qin Miaoyu carried out her role diligently. Chief Cui, she said, her smile widening. Is your lordship doing well? Our deputy chief asked me to invite you to our bureau for a chat. Cui Bichu glanced at her. Why didn't he come himself? The deputy chief was just with his majesty, Qin Miaoyu said, lowering her voice. It seems his majesty assigned him some task. He wants to ask for your help, but doesn't want to lower himself to do so. I know what he wishes to ask. Tell him to keep an eye on Zheng Yi. Before Qin Miaoyu could process this, a cloth bundle containing several exquisite porcelain jars was stuffed into her hands. Eh? She looked down, and her eyes lit up. This is the divine ointment you mentioned? You're really giving it to me, my lord. Oh dear, this is too much. I thought it'd be only one jar, but you've given me so many. But I couldn't possibly decline. That would be disrespectful. I'm sorry. This woman went through and she was like, this is the ointment you promised me? You're giving it to me? It's too much. I can't accept this. I thought it would only be one jar. Oh, but it would be rude to decline. I'll take it. Like, I'm sorry. This is one of the things I think is so funny sometimes about Chinese culture. It's like when someone's giving you a gift, you have to be like, oh no, I could never. Like, this is too kind of you. Thank you. Like, just say thank you and take it in the beginning, okay? Huh, let's see. Sorry, I just read the next line. One jar is for you. I'm so sorry. Okay, I get exponentially more goofy when I am sleepy. So you read it too. Like I saw the line before I read it. Just now she got so excited about it. Only to see that only one is for her. I need to drink because that was too much for me. Jeez. Okay, let me calm myself down. That sent me into a torrent of laughter I was not expecting. But I couldn't possibly decline. That would be disrespectful. One jar is for you, said Subichu. The others are for Fungar. Eh? Don't tell him they're from me. Just say they're your gift. Qi Yu was baffled. A slight furrow formed between her brows as she said, That may be a bit difficult for me to say. What's so difficult about it? asked Chuipuchu, arching a brow. Just tell him you've admired him for a long time and, in honor of the holiday, wish to express your feelings with a gift. But I don't admire him at all, thought Chi Miao thought. So, give them back, said Suibuchu. I'll have someone else deliver them. Chi Miao clutched the jars of divine ointment to her chest. No, I can do it, I promise. Don't worry about a thing. Suibuchu was unconvinced. Don't bring up my name, he reiterated. Chi Miao nodded, head bobbing like a chick pecking rice. Understood. But when Suibuchu turned to board his carriage, she grabbed his sleeve. Wait, one more thing. The deputy chief wishes to meet you at Luchi Pavilion in the East Market at sunset. Feng Xiao's exact words had been, I'll give him a chance to admire my splendor. But in Chi Miao's mouth, it became, the deputy chief misses you dearly and hopes to spend the festival with you. As your lordship knows, he has no friends or relatives in the capital, so he gets quite lonely. Consider it doing a good deed. Suibuchu shot her a glance, a shadow of a smile crossing his face. He neither accepted nor declined, but simply pulled his sleeve away and got into the carriage. It wasn't as if Qin Miaoyu could stop him from leaving. She watched helplessly as the carriage rolled away. The jars of ointment heavy in her hands left her with a feeling that was difficult to describe, both joyful and anxious. When she thought of how Feng Xiao might react, she felt a small headache coming on. No, it was an immense headache. Okay, that's the end of that chapter, so I can laugh my butt off now because not Feng Xiao said, I'll give him a chance to admire my splendor. And she's like, let me just edit what he said and tell you in better words. But it also, not her throwing Feng Xiao out there like he ain't got no friends or family in the capital. So he's lonely. Go see him. I feel like this is the most I've laughed while reading, like the worst I've laughed in the whole series. I just cannot. Let Buchu admire my feathers. Right? We have 20 pages left to read. I'm going to try. Okay. So now we're moving on to chapter 168. Qin Miaoyu spent the journey back to the Zhejian Bureau in turmoil. I feel for you. How could she give the divine ointment to Deputy Chief Feng without mentioning Cui Wuchu, while also ensuring Deputy Chief Feng didn't misunderstand her intentions? It was a most vexing problem. Fungar was undoubtedly brilliant. Though Chibichu had managed to manipulate him on more than one occasion, all this proved that Suibichu's brilliance was even greater. No one dared underestimate Fungar's perceptiveness, Qimiao included. If she didn't want to let anything slip during their conversation, practice was a must. Now she's going to rehearse before she gets there. By the time she arrived at the rear door of the bureau, it was mid-afternoon. Qin Miaoyu took a moment to compose herself. With the empty air as her audience, her expression changed, and she adopted a joyful and bubbly demeanor. Deputy Chief Feng, the famous rouge shop at the East Market has a new product called Divine Ointment. It does wonders for the skin. If you apply it before bed, you're sure to wake up with a radiant complexion. I happened to pick up a few jars as I was passing by. Would you like to give it a try? She leapt over to face the spot where she'd just been standing, then arched a brow and adopted a deeper voice. My venerable self told you to extend an invitation to Cuibuchu, yet you went skipping off to the East Market. Does the East Market lie on the way to the Gender Bureau? This isn't going to work. No, she said, after a brief pause. Sorry. After a brief pause, Qin Miaoyu blinked and smiled again. I'm sorry. I just have to. After a brief pause, Qin I'm so sorry, you guys. I'm trying really hard. After a brief pause, Qin Miaoyu blinked and smiled again. Deputy Chief Feng, this is divine ointment. I got it from the Zoya Bureau. They had more than they needed and kindly shared some with me. This cream will brighten your complexion. Would you like some? Qin Miaoyu's expression darkened as she scrutinized the jars in her hands. You brought me the Zoya Bureau's trash. Do you take me for a beggar? I'm trying so hard. Don't die, Marty. Take your time, Marty. I am trying so hard. 1 second. I need to. It's her acting out the roles. 1 second. Because it's so hot. I am literally sweating now. Okay. I just need to cool down. Because her rehearsing how she's gonna say it and how he's gonna respond is just too much for me. Mari Jack lockout. Oh God. I am literally sweating right now because I cannot. Oh gosh, yes, this is my fan. I have several. Oh my God. Okay. I think I'm okay now. Feng Xiao will be behind her. I just know it. I'm sure like she's gonna get caught rehearsing this. That won't do either. She took a deep breath and smiled gently, once more addressing the empty air. Deputy Chief, this divine ointment is a cherished family secret. Regular use will preserve your youthful looks eternally. It's why I look radiant each day. Your lordship works tirelessly from dawn to dusk, so I took the liberty of preparing this for you. Please accept it. Qin Miaoyu frowned, curling her lip in disdain. You call that complexion radiant? It's nowhere near as dazzling as mine. Throw that garbage away. I'm doomed. Stone crunched behind her. She jerked her head around to find Peijing just staring at her. He'd been so shocked upon overhearing her performance that he accidentally stepped on some loose gravel. Sorry, I was just passing by, he said, turning to leave. Qin Miaoyu grabbed his arm. You came at just the right time. I need your help. Peijing just smiled awkwardly. I really have to go to the toilet. It's urgent. Qin Miaoyu's tone was sweet. Perfect. I'll wait for you outside. It stinks, protested Pei Jingzhe. I don't mind. Pei Jingzhe cupped his hands and bowed formally. Qin Jie, please spare me. Qin Miaoyu frowned. I'm not asking you to cross a sea of swords or flames. She thrust the bundle of jars into Pei Jingzhe's hands. Of course, she'd already removed her own. This is divine ointment. We'll go see the deputy chief together. And after I finish my report, you'll take it out and say the emperor decided to gift it to him out of appreciation for his outstanding charm and elegance. It wasn't as if Feng Xiao could go interrogate the empress. And if he figured it out himself, well, that wasn't her problem. Pei Jingzhe looked pained. No way. I'm bad with words. Our lord will definitely reprimand me. I'll treat you to the best meal in the capital. You choose the place. Pei Jingzhe shook his head, resolute. I can't be bought off with petty bribes. 3 meals. I won't be corrupted by wealth, he declared nobly. Qin Miaoyu gritted her teeth. I'll give you half my salary for this month. She had a jar of priceless divine ointment. It was more than worth it. Deal, cried Pei Jingzhe. As if afraid Qin Miaoyu might change her mind, he grabbed the cloth bundle and shooed her inside. Our lord must be getting impatient waiting for us. Hurry up, let's go. Qin Miao's lips twitched. She suckered him in. Okay, Pei Jingzhe, this is your own grave. At 3 in the afternoon on the day of the Lantern Festival, the weather was balmy and pleasant. Feng Xiao's mood was anything but. The deaths of Li Mu and Liu Fang were a frustrating puzzle. After leaving the palace, he'd gone to the Ministry of Justice to retrieve the case files, then read through the documents as he made his way to the Li and Liu residences. And now we're back to seriousness. We'll see how long it lasts. Old Duke Li had been in his 70s. It was rare to live to such a ripe old age, and despite the bizarre circumstances of his death and the fit of madness he'd suffered before he passed, the Li family had reacted calmly. According to their testimony, Li Mu had behaved normally the day he passed away. Though retired, the Duke maintained his habit of reading and writing every day. He chatted cheerfully with the younger generation after dinner and expressed his desire to see the lanterns during this year's festival. Everyone was shocked when he suddenly lost his mind in the middle of the night. The coroner had examined him and found no trace of poison. Besides, the Lee family had all eaten the same food that night. If poison had been the culprit, they'd all be dead. Liu Fang's death was somewhat less bizarre. Before the Duke of Shu hung himself, he'd been summoned to court, where the emperor had reprimanded him. Liu Fang had supported Yang Jian's usurpation and benefited from it to some degree, yet didn't receive any significant authority under the new dynasty. He was trapped in a high-ranking yet idle position and deeply unhappy about it. After returning from court, he spent the entire day depressed and spoke little. He dismissed his family and stayed in his study all night, claiming he wished to reflect on his mistakes. Even the servants were sent away. Late that night, however, one loyal servant sensed something amiss. He entered the study and found Liu Fang hanging lifelessly from the rafters, his body already cold. Li Mu's death was completely out of the blue, while Liu Fang's death had a motive. Yet it was simply too striking a coincidence that both men had died only days apart in the first month. Taken together with the folk songs spreading through the capital and the empress's illness, many began to speculate. Even the common folk came up with a few wild theories. As Feng Xiao pieced together the various details he'd uncovered, even more questions resurfaced. He sank into thought. Only that Cui bastard was capable of keeping up with his sharp mind. But though he waited, Cui Wuchu did not arrive. Instead, it was Qin Miaoyu and Pei Jingzhe who stepped through the door and bowed respectfully. Feng Xiao's blank face seemed to scream, "Explain yourselves or suffer the consequences." All the playfulness Qin Miaoyu had displayed at the rear door had vanished. "Reporting to Deputy Chief," she said, solemn. "Chief Cui had pressing matters to attend to and unfortunately could not join me. However, he knows what you wish to ask and advises you to keep an eye on Zheng Yi." Zheng Yi. Feng Xiao cocked a brow. His interest piqued. Zheng Yi had been an official under the previous dynasty, but retained a significant position in the current one. With the exception of the Yuan family, Yang Jian hadn't purged any other officials after establishing the Sui dynasty. As long as they did their work honestly, towed the line, and didn't stir up trouble, they were allowed to continue serving. There were many officials of a similar rank and status as Li Mu and Liu Fang in court. So why was it these two who were dead? Feng Xiao wasn't the only one who'd made the connection. Li Mu and Liu Fang weren't merely former officials, but officials who had been vocal supporters of Yang Jian's ascension. Liu Fang, in collaboration with Zheng Yi, had even forged imperial edicts in service of Yang Jian's coup. These three men could be seen as founders of the new nation. Oh, so their deaths are very suspicious, extremely suspicious now. Now that with that piece of information, their deaths wouldn't only upset Yang Jian, they'd cast doubt on his rightful claim to the throne. Killing anyone else wouldn't have the same effect. Feng Xiao's thoughts returned to Cui Wuchu. The chief of the Zuoya Bureau saved as Empress Dugu's advisor, and his influence with the ruling couple far surpassed that of Liu Fang, Zheng Yi, and Li Mu. But the Zuoya Bureau was of little renown. Few people outside the court had heard Cui Wuchu's name. His death wouldn't make the same waves. Or perhaps the enemy lurking in the shadows yearned to eliminate him, but after several failures, had turned their gaze on others instead. Liu Fang was dead, but his companion in forgery, Zheng Yi, remained alive. When Feng Xiao had first reviewed these cases, he had forgotten about this man. Now Cui Buchu had reminded him. Zheng Yi enjoyed crowds and excitement, so he was bound to attend the evening banquet at the Prince of Qin's residence. Coming to a decision, Feng Xiao gave instructions to Pei Jingzhe. "Find Mingyue. Tell him to send a few men to keep an eye on the Zheng residence. If Zheng Yi leaves, tell him. I want to know whom he meets, what he eats and drinks, where he goes." Pei Jingzhe quickly assented, then snuck a glance at Qin Miao Yu. Feng Xiao shot him a questioning look. Steeling himself, Pei Jingzhe placed the bundle on the stone table. Sir, these are from Qin. These are gifts for your lordship from the palace. It's a cosmetic called Divine Ointment. I hear it has miraculous effects on the complexion. His Majesty had it delivered. Feng Xiao pulled a jar of ointment from the bundle and turned it in his hands. Is that so? For the sake of that half a month of salary, Pei Jingzhe doubled down, growing more confident as the words tumbled out. After you left the palace, His Majesty instructed an official to bring it to you. They happened to encounter Qin Jiejie at the palace gates and tasked her with the delivery. Qin Miao Yu laughed dryly. How had such a trivial matter grown so complicated? Now even the emperor was involved. She'd been worried that if she failed to follow Chief Cui's directions, she would expose him as the gift giver. If Vanguard then confronted Chief Cui, she was the insignificant pawn who'd suffer the consequences. Saying too much, make it worse. Right? Being a good person is way too difficult. Feng Xiao scrutinized them for a moment, his expression unreadable. Suddenly, he asked in a warm and amiable tone, Tell me, what do you two think of Mo? Uh-oh. Caught off guard, Pei Jingzhe replied automatically, it's great. Feng Xiao's smile was gentle. Then why don't I send you both there to enjoy the wind and sand? The Northwest border is in need of talented people like yourself. His expression grew cold. Lying right to my face, As soon as he said, what do you think about Tiamois? I was like, y'all finna get deported there if y'all don't deployed there if y'all don't quit playing around. Pei Jingzhe's knees almost buckled. He confessed instantly. Qin Miao Yu made me give it to you, sir. She wouldn't let me tell you. Qin Miao Yu sighed. Now that it had come to this, she had no choice but to come clean about Cui Bichu's instructions. Feng Xiao snorted. I knew it. Did you really think I wouldn't guess unless you told me? Qin Miao Yu immediately turned on the charm. Your lordship is so keen and perceptive. This subordinate knew it would be impossible to fool you. But my lord, you know Chief Cui has thin skin and values appearances. He's afraid you'll laugh at him if he bares his heart to you. Your lordship didn't see his expression when he gave me the divine ointment. Such a mix of anticipation and anxiety. He could barely conceal his yearning for you. How could I not be moved when I saw it? That's the only reason the subordinate agreed. Pei Jingzhe listened, dumbfounded. Was she really talking about Cui Bichu? Cui Bichu, filled with anticipation and anxiety. He couldn't imagine it. Feng Xiao's lips curved. Then tonight, he's sure to come meet me at Lu Qi Pavilion, correct? Qin Miao Yu suddenly found herself unable to speak. Giving her forehead a poke, Feng Xiao said affectionately, If he doesn't show up tonight, you're heading to Qianmo at first light. He swept out of the room. Qin Miao Yu wanted to cry, but had no tears. Pei Jingzhe stealthily slipped toward the door, following Feng Xiao. Pei Jingzhe, you stay right there. By 5 p.m, dusk had fallen. The moon hung high above the willow branches as people gathered for the festivities. Do you guys think he's going to show? I'm just curious. There was no curfew tonight, a rare treat experienced only 3 days of the year. The East Market would usually be closed at this hour, but tonight it bustled with activity, a constant stream of people flowing in and out. Lanterns adorned the shops on either side, while the city walls shimmered with scattered lights, as though the stars themselves had descended the earth. The chill of the winter night had dissipated, scattered by the warmth of the packed crowd. In the sky hung the solitary moon, round and red-tinged, as if stained with blood. Jasmine says, nope. Freya says, yes. Jasmine says, please. I think he'll come, but maybe he'll deliberately come late. I'm sticking with that. Cui Bichu stood before the entrance of Lu Qi Pavilion. Also, I did not see that. I have my bookmark here going line by line as I read. So Guan Shanhai and two members of the Zoya Bureau were at his back, all dressed in ordinary garb. After days of recuperation, Guan Shanhai had made great progress toward recovery. He was far from his best, but more than capable of general bodyguard duties. Luchi Pavilion had been a famous dining establishment even in the previous dynasty. It was renowned not only for its exquisite cuisine, but its fine entertainment, which made it a favorite destination among the nobles of the capital. Tonight, the street before the pavilion teemed with people, but many only gave their signboard a cursory glance before walking away. The prices here weren't something ordinary people could afford. Suibuchu gave his surname, and the waiter led him to a private room on the second floor. The space was walled, with a large window on one side overlooking the street below. The view was excellent. Even from the doorway, Suibuchu could see everything happening outside. Feng Xiao was already seated cross-legged before the table, casually pouring himself a drink. His demeanor was relaxed as he sampled the dishes already set out. Suibuchu's eyes went immediately to the jar of divine ointment sitting at his elbow. His lips gave an imperceptible twitch, and he made a mental note to deal with Qin Yao Yu later. I'm very concerned for her. Guan Shanhai and the others took up posts outside the door, and Cui Buchu stepped into the room. Feng Xiao threw him a dazzling smile as he settled himself at the table, then personally poured him wine and served him with his own hand. I received quite a special gift today, he said. Cui Buchu looked back innocently, waiting to assess his opponent's opening move. I was awfully touched by the gesture, Feng Xiao said, but the person who sent the gifts is rather shy. They weren't comfortable approaching me directly and arranged to have someone else deliver it. Suibuchu sneered to himself and made another mental black mark beside Miao Yu's name. What are your thoughts? Asked Feng Xiao. How should I express my gratitude? My thoughts, said Suibuchu slowly, are that either the giver of the gift is blind or the recipient is. Feng Xiao raised an eyebrow. And here I was thinking that if only he could own up and be honest about his feelings, I might reluctantly consider accepting them. He probably regretted sending the gift the moment it was out of sight. Why would he? Why wouldn't he? They stared at each other. Fake smiles etched on their faces. Suibuchu snorted coldly. If you've nothing important to discuss, I'll take my leave. Zhang Yi, said Feng Xiao. I've sent someone to keep an eye on him. So far, all is well. When do you think they'll strike again? Now they were talking business. Since Feng Xiao had moved on from the ointment, Cui Buchu felt magnanimous enough to offer a few words. After all, this was a matter of national importance. The day after tomorrow, he said without hesitation, the 17th of the first month, the Buddhist ceremony. Feng Xiao nodded. I thought the same. The murders and rumors are merely intended to sow chaos. The more disorder there is in the capital, the better it is for our opponent. Their goal is to undermine the emperor's authority in everyone's eyes. Then they'll attempt an assassination or launch a coup. They must have been plotting in secret for a long time. Perhaps they've even colluded with surviving descendants of the Yuan clan to exploit the turmoil they'll create. It certainly matches Xiao Lu's style. However, he added, bringing them back around to the beginning, I have my own doubts about the cases of Li Mu and Liu Fang. Cui Buchu coughed. If even the wise Fengar has no answer to those questions, how could this humbled Cui know? Feng Xiao didn't beat around the bush. Daddy. Cui Buchu. Cui Buchu choked in surprise, his coughs growing louder. Feng Xiao, I need to pay attention. See, this is what I'm saying. We were on a very serious topic. And out of commission for a moment, please call later. Every time. Cui Buchu choked in surprise, his coughs growing louder. We've been through this before. Feng Xiao cocked his head. If I call you daddy, you have to agree. You mustn't go back on your word. Cui Buchu sneered. I don't recall saying any such thing. Feng Xiao's tone was soft and delicate as he drawled. I can't read this. I can't read this, you guys. Cui Buchu sneered. I don't recall saying any such thing. Feng Xiao's tone was soft and delicate as he drawled. Daddy, you can't abandon your child like this. Far too shameless, Cui Buchu thought. You're only getting what you deserve. Feng Xiao chuckled to himself. Now that Cui Buchu was silent, he could lay out the facts of the case. That's the end of the chapter. And I need... How am I look, how am I supposed to read live with you all if 50% of the live is just me laughing? Centering myself. Chapter 169. I've suspected you and Uwing for some time now, Cui Buchu said when Feng Xiao had finished. Since when? Since the Thousand Lantern Banquet. Cui Buchu interacted very little with the imperial granddaughter, but he'd observed her at the Empress's side several times. Duchess Yuan had a gentle demeanor. Put more bluntly, she was introverted, shy, and a poor speaker. This perfectly described Duchess Yuan's behavior throughout most of the Thousand Lantern Banquet, but when Cui Buchu had tried to leave, she had taken the initiative to pursue him. She and her mother had been greatly embarrassed by the scene he'd made, and she'd confronted him over why he hadn't warned Princess Ping before exposing the criminals. Perhaps confronted wasn't the right word. Duchess Yuan's eyes had been sheened with tears as she bowed and pressed her forehead to the ground. Everyone at the scene had thought Cui Buchu too harsh, so cruel he forced even the emperor's granddaughter to kneel to him. Quite a few memorials criticizing him had landed on the emperor's desk in the aftermath. It was then that the first thread of suspicion had unspooled in Cui Buchu's mind. At that time, you said one word. Feng Xiao recalled. Strange. I actually oddly do remember that as well. And I thought he was saying strange because he was feeling like a twinge of guilt. But I guess that is not the case. So let's keep going, though. That's right. Duchess Yuan's strategy of attacking by feigning defeat was not only brilliant, it was completely out of character. Others might not have noted these small details, but after the Thousand Lantern Banquet, Cui Buchu considered everyone in the princess's residence suspicious. The subtle incongruence in Duchess Yuan's behavior had therefore caught his eye. Zhenye's scheme at the Thousand Lantern Banquet was ambitious. Nearly half the capital's nobles fell into his trap, but he was only the princess's lover, not the master of the residence. He shouldn't have been able to command so many people, and he and his collaborators folded too quickly when they were caught. I also found that strange. Back at Mount Tianan, Cui Buchu continued, Fan Yuan warned me. He said there's a greater, more powerful force at court who supports Xiao Lu. When I probed the Empress, she confirmed that Princess Ping gave birth to twin daughters. One was born sick and passed away without even receiving a name. Feng Xiao was silent for a moment. You're saying Duchess Yuan's twin sister is alive, and for some reason she's colluding with Xiao Lu? Cui Buchu nodded. I tested her at the palace gates, Feng Xiao said. Her reaction resembled that of an ordinary person. Cui Buchu was as keen as ever. He immediately caught the key word in his statement. Resembled, not was. Duchess Yuan was supposed to be an ordinary girl, not just resemble one. Martial artists react instinctively to danger, Feng Xiao continued, his eyes bright with interest. I could see it. She wanted to move, yet stopped herself to maintain the facade. I touched her face to check for signs of a disguise, but I got a pleasant surprise indeed. Her forbearance is commendable. Okay, so I thought there was something strange about her as well, because it said that Feng Xiao moved fast, but not as fast as he normally would, but still moved fast. And the fact that she was able to move out of the way, I was like, that's strange. but I didn't think too much of it more after that. Looks like I should have. Anyway, let's continue. A former princess, now a duchess. Duchess Yuan's situation was unique in all of history. She should have been a blessed daughter of the heavens, her hands too soft to carry even a pail of water. Yet it seemed this Duchess Yuan was a martial artist, and in Feng Xiao's opinion, a decent one. But all of this is pure conjecture, said Sui Bichu. We have no evidence. If we act rashly, we'll frighten the snake off before we can catch it. Feng Xiao agreed. All we can do now is investigate the deaths of Li Mu and Liu Fang. Li Mu went mad before his death, while Liu Fang died quietly and even left a suicide note. He might not have written the note, Sui Bichu reminded him. Feng Xiao nodded. I asked the Li family. They said in the days leading up to his madness, Li Mu had been suffering from excessive heat in his lungs. They called the doctor, who prescribed him medicine for his cough. He took a few doses and saw some improvement. Sui Bichu narrowed his eyes. Medicine? Gold thread, Asatis root, fresh mint, and a few more. A bitter ingredient, and another with a strong smell. Very similar to the last case. The bowl of silver ear and lotus seed soup at the Yandang Mountain Estate? Feng Xiao finished for him. Cui Buchu blinked. Feng Xiao's lips quirked at the corners, then flattened as if the smile had never been. That soup had a strong smell from the fish maw, and the people of Yandang Mountain Estate suddenly turned mad and killed each other. It is similar. But Liu Fang's death was different. I examined his corpse using the method you taught me. Did you touch the corpse? Because there's no way. Strangulation marks from hanging should be dark in the center and faint on either side from the pressure of the noose. The marks on his neck were even. He didn't impulsively take his life after the emperor reprimanded him. He was murdered. So perhaps Xiao Lu killed Liu Fang to create a certain narrative, Cui Bichu said. And right now, he's lurking in the dark, plotting an even greater conspiracy. But Li Mu and the murders at Yandang Mountain Estate, along with the goo array we stepped into, seem to be the work of another hand. Their goal is to... Here, Feng Xiao paused. Stir up chaos they can benefit from... Cui Bichu gazed intently at the wood grain of the table, his mind focused but his thoughts elsewhere. As if he could see the 8 trigrams of fuxi etched within the table's surface. He sat so long, Feng Xiao began to wonder if he'd taken leave of his senses or else hadn't heard him at all. Finally, he said, I suspect the Gukturks. Feng Xiao's tone invited him to continue. The Gukturks are ambitious. They claim to have submitted, but it won't last. If any opportunity to strike itself presents, they won't hesitate to attack. That's the first reason. The second is that all poisonous goo arts originated within the Pu city-states. These techniques work their way through the southwest and up the Yangtze, teaching the Tangut, Tuyuhun, and Kocho peoples. The techniques were well concealed and poorly understood, and the shamans of the north especially loved using them in underhanded maneuvers. And third, the goo poisons and the array only appeared after the 7th prince, Ku Hejun, arrived in the capital. Feng Xiao smiled. What a coincidence. The Prince of Qin is hosting a banquet at his residence tonight. Ku Hejun should be in attendance. Cui Bichu had just drawn breath to reply when he sat up straight and peered down at the street below. Feng Xiao followed his line of sight. A familiar figure was strolling through the crowd at the entrance of Lu Qi Pavilion, surrounded by maids who kept pace with her. Duchess Yuan. By now, it was well past 6 in the evening. The Prince of Jin's banquet would start at 7. The sea of people downstairs had split into 2 opposing streams. One headed north to watch the fireworks, the other south to see the lanterns. Duchess Yuan and her attendants were making their way south. She must have received an invitation from the Prince of Qin, but if she went to stroll the festival now, she'd surely miss the evening banquet. Cui Bichu rapped 3 times on the tabletop, and Guan Shanhai pushed open the door and entered. Cui Bichu pointed outside. Follow Yuan Ying. Find out where she's going and report back to me. With a swift nod, Guan Shanhai disappeared behind the door. Feng Xiao got to his feet. It seems you won't be joining me at the Prince of Qin's residence after all. In that case, I'll take my leave first. lest I miss all the fun. Have a safe trip. No need to see me off. Feng Xiao held up the jar of divine ointment and waggled it in front of Cui Buchu. Do you really not know who sent this? If you don't, I'll throw it away. Cui Buchu ducked his head and began to eat, as if he'd only just realized there was an exquisite feast laid out before him. Feng Xiao sneered and shoved a folding fan in Cui Buchu's hand. Cui Buchu frowned. He held it loosely, as if it might burn his fingers. Throwing it away, Feng Xiao warned. I heard there used to be a saying about gifting fans and tokens of affection. I never imagined Deputy Chief Feng harbored such deep feelings for me. Chuibuchu eased the fan open, his lips twitching, and he was unable to say another word. On the spread fan was a portrait of. Wait a minute. He had the painter paint on this fan, didn't he? On the spread fan was a portrait of a tall and ethereal figure standing on the banks of the Yellow River, facing the water. The subject was none other than Feng Ar. He really did want to throw it away. Qi Miaoyu said you entered the palace to ask the emperor for a painter. Was it to paint this thing? He asked, voice rising with incredulity. Feng Xiao leaned forward and spoke softly into his ear. Since you gave me the divine ointment as your token of affection, I had to repay you with something even more precious. I thought it over carefully. Why, the most precious thing in the world is myself. Since it's impossible for you to see me whenever you like, now you can look at my portrait to console yourself. It's nearly as good as the real thing. Before Tuibuchu could erupt in rage, Feng Xiao beat a swift retreat. Pulling the little jars close to his chest, he strode out with a bright laugh. Tuibuchu was so affronted his hair stood on end. He reached out, ready to tear the fan to pieces, lest Feng Xiao grow even more gleeful. But when he glimpsed the painted surface, his hand stopped of its own accord. The court painter really was an artist of incredible skill. The figure on the fan was lifelike, almost ready to leap out of the paper. After a moment, Cui Buchu discreetly tucked the fan away. Not long after Feng Xiao took his leave, Guan Shanhai returned with his findings. Lord Chief, she continued south. While exiting the city, instead of going to see the lanterns, she sat alone in Liu Ying Pavilion. She was still there when I came back to report. To avoid alerting her, I dared not get any closer and left Wang Ju to keep watch instead. Cui Buchu frowned in silence for a while. She noticed you. Guan Shanhai was taken aback. Impossible, he blurted out. Your subordinate kept his distance. I'm not blaming you. Cui Buchu waved a hand. Liu Ying Pavilion sits atop a rocky hill, surrounded by open space. It's far from the festival, so crowds are unlikely to gather there. And it's winter. The trees are bare and offer no cover. As long as the people with her paid attention, they were sure to notice you. It's also possible she went there on purpose and was waiting for you to approach. On purpose, echoed Guan Shanhai. Cui Buchu nodded. She's waiting for us to willingly take the bait. Come, let's go and play the fish tonight. He rose and led Guan Shanhai and the others out. Guan Shanhai noticed the new folding fan in Cui Buchu's hand. Though puzzled, he wasn't one to poke his nose into other people's business. He stuck to his duties, never asking any more questions than necessary. Cui Buchu suddenly stopped. Later, when you have the time, go inquire about when the Zhejian Bureau plans to return the painter they borrowed from the court. Understood. That's it. Okay, so Duchess Yuan noticed him. He got caught. That's concerning. All right, let's see. LOL, not again. And you called it. I keep my mouth shut. LOL. This why Tsuibuchu hired him. Yes, this is definitely why he wanted him. I think Guan Shanhai is exceptional. Like he's not a big character, but I'm glad that he's been introduced because I don't know, I just like him. I think he's a nice character. So yeah. Um, let's see. Do I have anything else to comment in that chapter? Other than, of course, having a serious conversation and they have to be silly somewhere in there. I seriously love this series. Like, we're not done. We still have let me see. Siri, what is 396 minus 177? We still have 219 pages left. Thank you. Of this series, and there's some more to go, some more to uncover. But I struggle with this series because I'm trying to figure out where to place it in my favorites. The mystery of the soup. I am puzzled how the soup plays in all of this still. Yes, absolutely. I want to know exactly what is going on because it's like on one hand, yeah, you could think, oh, maybe this is Xiaolu and someone else, but yes, all of these things did happen at the same time that this Gokturk Prince Kuhajun, I think I said his name right, Kuhajun or Kuhujan, I don't remember, but all of this happened the same time as him and his little martial artist guy came on the scene. And so we already have gotten a chapter from them where they're like, I'm ready to start some chaos. So I'm excited to see what part they play in this whole thing. Because we know of Xiaolu's existence. We know what he wants to do. But it's like adding another layer of threat is very interesting. And I think it's also quite realistic as well, because I mean, especially considering how Yang Jian took the throne, it makes sense that there would be multiple forces against him, because I would say the Gukturks were already a problem. We know that from Thousand Autumns, that the Gukturks are a problem. And so it's like bringing that into this story is very realistic. They are a very realistic threat that we need to pay attention to. But then also that, within Joe, we have not Joe, whatever the name of the place they are in, we have another threat. So mystery of so-called death twin. Yes, I also want to know more about this twin because they're definitely not dead. We know they're not dead, right? Yes. So anyway, I don't really have anything much to say about everything we read because I would say something after every chapter or just in the middle of us reading. The only thing I can say is I feel like I got a workout from all the laughing that I did. If didn't see the body, they are not dead. Oh, if we didn't see the body, they're not dead. That is always what I say. Let me see the body. So yeah, these chapters were very, very good, very comical. At this rate, I'm thinking that this is probably the funniest volume so far. I can't say it's my favorite just yet. I feel like I need to read 2 more chapters. Uh, I'm not sure. What did I say my favorite volume was before? It might have been volume 4, actually. It's weird because I feel like with every volume that is read, I like the next volume more and more because I loved volume 1. And then when we got volume 2, I was like, ooh, I really like volume 2. But then once we got to volume 3, I was like, this volume is amazing. And then once we got to volume 4, I was like, this is my favorite. So, but I think that's a good problem to have, like for you to not be able to choose which volume is your favorite because each and every time it just gets better and better. So, but I guess it probably will end up being volume 5. But I just love it when a story gets better and better rather than having a series where some volumes are more exciting than others, you know? Like for instance, like when I think about TGCF, I my least favorite volumes were volume 2 and some of volume 6. So it like if someone could ask me off the top of my head, like were there volumes that you were like, or it was hard to get through, it would have been those. But I feel like with Peerless, every single volume has been intriguing. Every single volume has captured my attention. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that they stay in the present. Things about the past are mentioned, they are talked about, but we're not really going into flashback world, which for me, I know a lot of Don may do it. They're going to do it. It is what it is. But I do love stories that just stay with us in the present, you know, because sometimes it's like going back into the past can be a drag. And I know that the information is important. And after I've gotten through it, I'm grateful that I got through it. But in the midst of reading it, I'm like, can we be done already? So that's just a note about Peerless overall. Just my thoughts. let's see. This story is too unserious halfway through every chapter. Yeah, keeping my thoughts straight was a challenge. I love it. We readers are trying to keep a straight and serious face. Feng Xiao. Sorry, not gonna happen with me around, right? So anyway, those are all my thoughts on the chapters for today, and I guess just some thoughts about Peerless in general. Um, right now, it's in third place as my favorites because I have Thousand Autumns, Remnants of Filth, and then Peerless. But part of me is like, do I want to move it? Do I want to move it to second place? There's even a part of me that wants to move it to first place, but I think because of all of the philosophy within it, I have to keep a Thousand Autumns in first place. Yes, I have to. I don't want anything to ever take Thousand Autumn's place. I feel like that's an unrealistic goal of mine though, to keep the same favorite Danmei for all eternity. We'll see. Oh my gosh. But did you guys enjoy these chapters today? I mean, I think you did because we all laughed together. No Thousand Autumns. Right. I don't have a Thousand Autumns bias. It's just my favorite. That's all. Like, but I'm not biased. So, like, that's clear, right? Clear. So anyway, do you guys have anything y'all want to discuss? I think now that I've stopped reading and I've gotten all the it's like after a workout, now I'm just like, whew, I'm done. Have a great rest of your time, and I'll see you all next time. Bye bye.